For half a second, your mattress becomes a cliff. You are almost asleep. The room is quiet, the bed is flat, nothing is happening. Then your whole body snaps like it just missed a step that was not there. The cliff is fake, obviously, but your nervous system answers as if the drop is real. So why can a safe bed feel like a sudden fall right at the edge of sleep? The official name for this little betrayal is a hypnic jerk, also called a sleep start or a hypnagogic jerk, which is a very polished label for your leg suddenly making an executive decision. At the body level, it is a brief involuntary muscle twitch as you are crossing from awake into sleep. It can feel like a kick, a shiver, or that missing a stair feeling, except your audience is one pillow. Sometimes the brain adds a tiny image to the moment, a stumble, a drop, a flash of falling, one micro dream with terrible production values. And these pieces can happen so close together that they feel like one event, but they are easier to understand if we split them apart. The muscle jerk, the falling sensation, and the little sleep onset story attached to it. Because the real mystery is not only why the body twitches, it is why a twitch in a safe bed can arrive dressed as gravity making a personal threat. Falling asleep feels like the easiest thing in the world, because from your side, the plan is mostly to stop participating. But biologically, sleep is not a light switch. It is more like a handoff between two versions of you, and sometimes the timing gets clumsy. The first stage, N1, is light sleep, not fully awake, not deeply gone. Muscle tone is still present, brain activity is shifting, and the whole thing is less off switch than unstable doorway. So the strange part is not that something happens there, it is that this edge can feel peaceful while several systems are changing modes at once. Awareness is fading, the body is loosening its grip, and the brain is still close enough to wakefulness to notice when the timing goes weird. Once sleep becomes a transition zone, the jolt stops looking random and starts looking like a badly timed signal. At that exact edge, the body can do something very simple and very rude. A muscle fires when you did not ask it to. Sleep doctors would put this under myoclonus, which basically means a brief, shock-like muscle contraction. The everyday version is less elegant. Your arm, leg, shoulder, or whole body suddenly interrupts bedtime. This is the motor part of the hypnic jerk. Nothing in the room has to move, touch you, or make a sound because the spark is coming from inside the nervous system's transition. And for occasional sleep starts, that is usually normal and harmless. And if that sounds weirdly specific, it is also weirdly common. In fact, estimates often say around 60 to 70% of people experience hypnic jerks at some point in life. So congratulations, your private midnight malfunction has a very large user base. But this only explains the kick, not the cliff. Now we have the body signal. One fast contraction at the worst possible time for dignity, but the falling part is stranger, because a muscle twitch does not automatically come with a whole emergency scene. At sleep onset, the brain is losing the clean, stable input of waking life, while sleep imagery can start leaking in. That edge can produce brief, hypnagogic experiences, which is the scientific way of saying your almost asleep brain may begin generating sensations before the show has officially started, and those sensations are not always visual. They can feel bodily, floating, dropping, weightlessness, movement, the general vibe of being mishandled by physics. So one careful way to read the fake cliff is this: the body jolts and the brain adds a quick explanation. A sudden internal signal arrives, and the half-sleeping brain tries to make it make sense. For a waking brain, a jolt might mean you kick the blanket. For a brain halfway into sleep, it might mean you are falling off something the room never supplied. That does not prove the exact order every time, but it gives us a better model than the bed became cursed for 1 second. The internet has a very satisfying version of this. Your brain thinks you are dying and shocks you back awake. It is dramatic, sticky, and just medically flavored enough to survive on a comment section diet, but medical sources do not usually frame ordinary hypnic jerks that way. The myth feels believable because the experience has all the right props: sudden motion, fear, a drop, and waking up like something just happened. The better version is less cinematic and more useful. At the edge of sleep, motor activity, arousal, and brief sensory interpretation can overlap while the system is changing states. The exact cause is not pinned to one neat button, which is annoying, because neat buttons look excellent in thumbnails. Less cinematic but more honest. This is sleep onset getting untidy. This also explains why the jolt does not always show up on the calm, poetic night you would expect. Sometimes it arrives on the night when you're exhausted, but somehow still electrically employed. Your body is trying to enter sleep, while your nervous system is still carrying the leftovers of wake mode. Stress can do that. So can being overtired, caffeine too late, nicotine, alcohol, or the glowing rectangle that says, very convincingly, just one more thing. None of those has to be the single villain. They keep the system more switched on at the exact moment it is supposed to soften. If the descent into sleep is rougher, louder, or just easier to notice, the fake fall has more room to arrive. So the fake fall is not always some deep message from the unconscious. Sometimes it is just a tired body trying to shut down while the day is still yelling in the hallway. There is one boundary worth keeping clean here. The ordinary version is usually just body weirdness, harmless, annoying, and extremely rude. Very professional category. But if it happens often, hurts you, keeps wrecking sleep, or looks unlike a quick sleep start jolt, that belongs in a different conversation. At that point, the question is no longer, why did my body do one strange thing while falling asleep? It becomes, why is this pattern disrupting sleep or looking like something else? A normal sleep start can feel dramatic from the inside. Repeated injuring or seizure-like episodes are not the same story. So we are back in the same quiet room, with the same flat bed, and the same person blinking at the ceiling like the mattress just betrayed them. But now the moment has parts, a twitch, a falling feeling, and maybe a rushed little sleep-onset story trying to explain both. The cliff was never in the room. Nothing broke. For 1 second, awake and asleep overlapped badly enough to feel like a fall. Awake was fading, sleep was arriving, and the nervous system briefly caught its shoe on the doorway. Most nights, falling asleep feels peaceful because the crossing is quiet. Every now and then, the checkpoint drops the clipboard.